What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 10 best builds in New World Season 10. This new update has completely changed up the meta with the new sets, reworked perks, and even some of the wildest artifact synergies we've ever seen. No matter if you're playing Wars, OPR, PvE content or the Nighthaven raid, the meta is completely evolving. So today we are breaking down the builds, from one-shot bow builds to enraged hatchets to flail nukes and even greatsword juggernauts. I'll walk you through each build's playstyle, their key perks and set bonuses, so that you can dominate from the day 1 of the new season. So first up we have the Serenity Greatsword build, which is a PvE DPS god. Season's 10 PvE scene has a brand new king, the Serenity Greatsword build. Serenity is an artifact that massively boosts your overall DPS, and when paired with the Enraged set, it becomes a powerhouse of sustained heavy hitting damage. The gameplay is all about controlling your Enraged stacks. At full stacks you're getting 25% increased damage, and if you dip below 70% health, then you get another 8% additional damage, for a total of 33% more damage. Since Serenity scales incredibly well with the heavy attack builds, so you'll be chaining charge heavy slashes into Defiant stance combos, which will melt through the raid bosses like butter. And to top it off, the Greatsword users can now access perks like the Sturdy Fortification, that grants 8% fortify per block, and Prolonged Favor, which increases the duration of debuffs by 10%. The result is that you're not only dishing out insane amount of damage, but also sustaining yourself through the constant fortify uptime. This build is perfect for the raids or PvE events, where every ounce of DPS will count. The top 3 combos is the Greatsword plus the hatchet, which is perfect for PvE for the constant uptime and the berserker's safety. Then Greatsword plus the firestaff. This hybrid damage build will use overcharge and empower chains. And then the Greatsword plus the sword and shield, which is great for solo PvE content by providing fortify and block sustain. Then for number 9 we have the Infernal blunderbuss build, which is a PvP burst monster. If you're tired of dying to blunderbusses, then well, I have bad news. Infernal blunderbuss is about to become your worst nightmare in Season 10. This build revolves around infixes, which gives you 20% extra damage within 10 meters. This number is already scary enough, but when you combine it with the alternating enhancements, every ability you use will boost your next basic attack. The Infernal artifact itself now scales off the strength, which makes it a natural pairing for melee-focused hybrid builds. The gameplay loop is simple but devastating. We are going to open with the blunderbuss ability, then weave in a light attack and watch your target disappear in a single frame. You can stack in the Enraged set for even more multiplicative damage, then trust harnessing gems for the 2.5% light and the heavy attack boosts, and get even perks like the keen speed to maintain permanent 50% haste. If you can get all of these, then you have a build that hits like a truck. For perks, we aim for the vicious, enchanted and the keenly jagged, to stack crits and the bleed damage. Just don't be surprised if after your combos, the enemies will get deleted in a single second. The top 3 combos is the blunderbuss plus a great axe, which is a classic melee range hybrid, so you grab, then gap close and then delete. Then blunderbuss plus a greatsword, and this works because strength scaling will synergize with the fortify sustain. And then blunderbuss plus a hatchet, which will be a very high speed, reckless brawler build with insane uptime. Then next we have the Lifetaker musket, which is a PvE god for the sharpshooting. For those who prefer precision and positioning, the Lifetaker musket build is a sleeper PvE monster this season. The musket artifact got a huge rework. The shrapnel now applies that on the crits instead of just a headshot, which makes it much more consistent. The Lifetaker also introduces self-buffing capabilities, by letting you maintain strong uptime on the empowered and the dot effects, and you are dealing steady, sustained DPS into the boss encounters or the dungeon fights. Gear-wise, we go for the thrust damage on the ring, then curse enhancement, which increases basic attack damage by 10% at the cost of ability damage, and then the stack thrust by harnessing damage. The result is a musket build that feels more like a long-range machine gun, constantly applying pressure while keeping a safe distance. It's not as flashy as the blunderbuss, but for the PvE min-maxers, this is one of the most reliable ranged builds in Season 10. The top 3 combos is the musket plus the rapier, which is a classic duelist setup with the agility and repose safety. Then the musket plus the bow, or long range synergy for the PvE bosses and sustained DPS. And then the musket plus the blunderbuss, which is PvE build focused for close and long range flexibility. Then at number 7 we have the Enraged hatchet build. The hatchet remains one of the most fun and rewarding PvE builds in New World, but in Season 10 it's officially broken. The new Enraged set will give you a 25% base damage increase at a full stacks, and if you're below 70% health, then that climbs to 33%. Combine that with the hatchet's Undying Berserker's passive, which revives you if you drop below 0, and you can play a full greed with no risk build. The gameplay will revolve around staying aggressive, so spamming Berserk for empower stacks, then chaining Raging Torrent or Infernal Rush for mobility. You're rewarded for staying with low HP, so running leeching or regeneration perks will ensure that your uptime is 24/7. Then for gear, you want to get Enraged pieces, enchanted for the raw attack scaling, and maybe even refreshing strikes for more mobility uptime. In raids or dungeons, this hatchet build will melt bosses faster than almost anything else in the game. For top 3 combos, we have the hatchet plus the Greatsword. This is the absolute top tier PvE combo right now, for the raw and explosive DPS. Then the hatchet plus the Warhammer, that adds AoV and rend for group content. And then the hatchet plus the spear, which is perfect for PvP skirmishes and 1v1 fights. Then at number 6 we have the finisher rapier, which is amazing for PvE that hybrid build. Even though the classic finisher rapier got nerfed, the new Doran's Blade artifact will breathe life back into the rapier's gameplay. Doran's Blade gives you heavy attacks at 10% dots that stack up to 3 times, and when you trigger its finisher, it consumes all burns to deal the remaining damage instantly, which essentially turns your bleeds into a massive nuke. You can pair this with the Lifetaker or the finisher style perks for additional dot scaling, and also use sets that enhance empowerment and heavy attack damage. In PvE, you'll weave in heavy attacks between evades, maintaining 3 stacks of burn, and detonating them for a ridiculous burst of windows. Rapier players will love this fast and technical gameplay, and will find this build both challenging and rewarding. It's not quite as brainless as the hatchet, but the ceiling is high enough for the skilled players. The top 3 combos is the rapier plus the fire staff, which is the classic hybrid dot build, so burn plus the bleed explosions. Then the rapier plus the void gauntlet, that adds debuff control and sustain while keeping your dots rolling. And then the rapier plus the bow, which is great for light armor PvE builds that rely on high mobility and precision. Then next up we have the Flail of Eruption build, which is a PvP burst combo setup. Season's 10 buffs turn the Flail into an absolute monster. The powerful Eruption perk will increase the damage by 16% per stack of impairment, and you can stack it up to 3 times, for a massive 48% damage boost. The trick here is combining this with the enchanted ability multipliers, by allowing devastating combos like the Trip plus Eruption plus the light attack, which can erase enemies instantly. The Flail now synergizes perfectly with the damage boosting artifacts, and because this toolkit includes healing and the crowd control, you can actually fight effectively without dying instantly. It's the ideal build for players who want to brawl in PvP, so get strong sustain, incredible burst potential, and surprisingly good mobility. I expect to see a bunch of these builds running around the OPR this season. The top 3 combos is the Flail plus the Sword and Shield, which is strong defensive synergy, so it's tanky and unkillable in 1v1s. Then Flail plus the Great Axe, for pure crowd control chaos for group PvP. And then the Flail plus the Greatsword, for amazing hybrid for debuffing and sustaining for heavy PvP fights. Then at number 4 we have the Greatsword Juggernaut build. The Greatsword has always been strong, but Season 10 gives it even more defensive power, with the sturdy fortification adding 8% fortify per block, which can stack to 3 times, and prolonged favor, increasing buff duration by 10%. The Greatsword players can now maintain near permanent fortify, while swinging for massive numbers. The gameplay is simple but effective. You can alternate between Defiant stance to block and fortify, and then Onslaught stance for pure DPS. The Enraged set once again will shine here, letting your heavy attacks consume stacks to deal 20% more damage. You'll want to run perks like the Keenly Empowered, Vicious and Enchanted, alongside gems that boost your slashing or thrusting damage, depending on your secondary weapon. In group PvP, this build is a frontline machine, and in PvE it's a tanky DPS hybrid that won't die even in a chaotic boss fight. The top 3 combos is the Greatsword plus the Warhammer, which is the ultimate frontline combo for the War and OPR, then Greatsword plus the Bow, which is a PvP hybrid for that chase down kills, and then Greatsword plus the Flail, which is a defensive bruiser pairing for the self-healing potential. Next up at number 3, we have the Gravity Well bow build. Let's talk about the most ridiculous addition in Season 10, which is the Gravity Well bow. The concept is super simple. This is a bow that can fire a gravity well across the map. And yes, you heard that right. Imagine an OPR or war scenario where you can simply pull entire groups of enemies from 50 meters away. Combine that with the finisher secondary for the bleed stacking, or Lifetaker pairing for the sustained dot damage, and you've got a build that's equal parts support and assassin. The core of this build will use the infix system for the close range bonus damage, and the cursed enchantment for the raw power on the basic attacks. Throw in the enchanted totality to scale your light and heavy attacks, and you can one-shot squishy players while controlling the entire zone of the battlefield. Overall, this build is meta-defining for wars and arenas alike. The top 3 combos is bow plus the spear, which is a classic PvP combo, so CC chain into the headshots, then bow plus the great axe, so gravity well plus another gravity well, which will be a complete battlefield control monster, which will give you 2 gravity wells, and then the bow plus the rapier, for high mobility skirmish setups for 1v1s and kiting. Then at number 2, we have the Void Gauntlet debuff machine build, which is perfect for both PvP and PvE. The Void Gauntlet, or as some are calling the Voya build, is making a massive comeback. Its key perks, the Nullifying Oblivion Orb, now removes buffs from the enemies and increases their debuff duration by 30%. In PvP, this makes you a nightmare support, so stripping buffs from the tanks and amplifying damage taken by everyone caught in your AoV. And then in PvE, it's the ultimate team DPS multiplier by increasing burn and the bleed uptime on your allies. You can pair this build with a high focus or constitution and use sets that enhance debuff duration or empower, and you'll see your group's total DPS skyrocket. No matter if you're playing a backline support or a hybrid DPS, this build will be in high demand for Season 10 raids and the wars. The top 3 combos is Void Gauntlet plus the Fire Staff, which is the all-star hybrid for the group DPS boosting, then Void Gauntlet plus the Rapier, which is perfect for PvP 1v1 combos with a self-sustain, and then the Void Gauntlet plus the Ice Gauntlet for a full mage setup for AoV control and the debuffs. And finally, we've reached what might be the most broken of all round builds in Season 10, and it is the Elementally Charged Hybrid build. This is not a single weapon, but a synergy of the sets and perks that will push hybrid builds to the next level. The Elementally Charged set will provide raw offensive power by boosting your elemental damage based on your weapon's type. Combine this with the perks like Tenacity, which increases your Fortify, and Empower buffs Bench Chuck, and then Even Focus, which amplifies your healing and mana efficiency. And you've got a build that can switch between offense and sustain effortlessly. The real power though will come from your mix of Overcharge and the second wind effects. Overcharge will boost your ability significantly, while the second wind will reset your cooldowns faster, then you can heal or buff allies. So no matter if you're running a Fire Staff plus the Void Gauntlet combo, or an Ice Gauntlet plus the Rapier hybrid, you're constantly rotating empowered abilities. In both PvE and PvP, this build will feel unfair. It can sustain bursts and control all at once, so expect to see these hybrids dominate wars and group content throughout the Season 10. My top 3 combos is the Fire Staff plus the Void Gauntlet, which is my most balanced all-around hybrid build, then Ice Gauntlet plus the Rapier, or control mage setup for the PvP dominance, and then the Life Staff plus the Flail, for support hybrid with near infinite sustain and utility.